peoples.
What's up, Dad?
Good to see y'all. Yeah, it's interaction. That's what class is about. We're talking to each other today. We get to go through Kings, Second Kings. Do you have your Bibles? Yeah. Pull your Bibles open to Second Kings. And we're going to start in chapter 8. Kind of ended Bible studies, my understanding, chapter 7, verses 20. So that's the last of chapter 7 in the first place.
So Second Kings.
Second Kings, chapter 8. And so since we have some new faces, and it was helpful for me to kind of summarize kind of what happened and what's going to happen and what is currently happening, talking to you guys, then I'm going to be able to bring you all up to speed, and that way, as we're telling the stories and understanding what's going on, you guys can catch up. Good news for you guys is a very exciting chapter. A lot of people are, a lot of action, I would say. Heads are rolling. Heads are literally coming off and being thrown at the door. And people are getting trampled to where all you see is skulls and palms and feet, but the rest of the body you can't even find. And so it's going to be some good stuff. So a little bit of humor in here, a little bit of discussion. So we'll get started. Big picture summary. What has already happened? So Israel and Judah have been on a spiritual roller coaster. God has always warned his people through his prophets, especially Elijah and Elisha, like, hey, stay away from the idols, stay away from the bad stuff, follow my word. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. Don't let anything bad inside the city. Don't let anything bad inside your heart and your souls. And so all these compromises that the children of Israel had have consequences. And we'll start to see that come to light. And so King Ahab and Queen Jezebel led Israel deep into Baal worship. So Baal was a foreign lowercase god, someone else, not God, that they started turning to and worshiping instead of the real God. Kind of a slap in the face, like if your parents were like, they raised you and, you know, did all these things for you, and then Taya, you become rich and famous, and you say, I like to thank Mr. Snowden. He brought me through all these things, and, you know, he was there for me in my hardest times, right? Your mom feels a certain way about that, right? She feel like, wait, I did all these things. This is disrespectful. So I think that, you know, God has a little bit of that in him, and he demonstrates that. And so they were worshiping Baal because Queen Jezebel and King Ahab kind of led the whole nation that way as a leadership team. That's what they did. And they were persecuting God's prophets. So all the people that were following God, they were kind of making it not cool. They were bullying them, you know. So that's a word you guys can identify with, bullying, you know, that type of stuff. Yeah, that's what was happening. And so God's demonstrating his mercy repeatedly. He's demonstrating his power repeatedly. I know when I taught 2 Sundays ago, you're literally seeing prophecies come true. You're seeing fires come down and consuming 50 men at a time. And you're seeing that the rivers are being parted. So God's demonstrating, like, I'm still here, y'all. You can follow me at any time. But people are continuing to go through that cycle. Elisha performed a lot of miracles to show that he was the next chosen authority. And so you got to see that. And then Syria repeatedly attacked Israel, and God delivered them time over time over time again. So even after the miracles, you know how we are, like people. Start to reject God again. Things are going good. We don't need him no more. We good. Everything's going well. I don't need to pray, you know. So that's starting to happen again.
I got this.
I got this. Look what I did. You know, that whole thought process. I got it from here. Thanks, God. I can take it from here. I'll take the wheel now.
That's what we do.
So that's what's happened already. And that's all through, like, as you're getting in 2 Kings chapters 1 through kind of 7. And so what's happening now is God's fulfilling a lot of his promises. And so Ahab's corrupt dynasty is falling apart. So King Ahab is starting to fall apart, and all the things that he's done that he shouldn't have done are coming to pass, judgment on. And so you're starting to see political chaos, spiritual corruption, people trying to hold on to power without honoring God, and the section moves fast, kind of like contestants getting voted off of like a TV show. Like people are being dismissed very, very quickly. Remember the 100 show that we used to watch, Mason and Samantha? Yeah, people are getting voted out real quick. We're not down to 100 anymore. We're down. Remember that? So that's what's happening now with all these kings and different people in power. So that's what's happening. And then what's happening next after this is Jehu's violent reform continues. Israel keeps drifting spiritually. Despite the cleanup, we'll start to get to that probably next week, is the way I'm writing down my notes and trying to pace the time. And I'm like, yeah, we won't even get to that. So that's kind of an overview. And I wanted to do that because I know different people come in at different times, and, you know, putting it together all at once and looking at the big picture and then zooming in on where we're at, I think is important. And then the other thing that I wanted to do, and then I'll open up to kind of talk through personalities and people a little bit, is remind us of some of the names, because not only was it helpful for me as I was studying to like, all right, what happened here and what's going on and what's about to happen, like all the names kind of confuse me a little bit. And you start to get to the point where you're like, all right, who is who? And so we'll talk through kind of some of the names. So the first one, Elisha. He was the prophet of God, successor to Elijah. And he trusted God completely. He spoke difficult truth fearlessly. He served people compassionately. And you were able to see through Elisha how God works through faithful people, quietly serving over long periods of time. Anything else about Elisha that stands out?
Elijah's the one who went up in the chariot of fire.
Elijah, yes.
Elijah.
Yep. And then Elisha was the one, I'm not going to leave your sight. I'm not leaving.
Give me a double portion.
Give me a double portion. So, Elijah, God was with, took him straight to heaven, didn't even die, in a chariot of fire, which was pretty dope. And then he said, you know, let me know what you want, and I can give it to you, or I can ask God for it. What is it that you want? And what did he ask for, Brian?
A double portion of the power, the miracles, the blessings, however you want to call it, the abilities that Elijah had.
Yep.
And twice as much.
Twice as much. I want 2 scoops of Raisin Bran.
I wonder, like, how many of us would ask for a
New car?
double portion? Sister Judy's shaking her head no.
Couldn't handle it.
I think of David, Solomon. Solomon asking for wisdom.
Yes.
You know, you can have all the things you want. What do you want? What do you want?
The irony of that was wise to ask for wisdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
You already got it.
I don't know. That was a wise. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
How am I going to do this?
Yep.
The wisdom to do this. That's to have that awareness.
That's a good point. I would say, as you're in your spiritual journey, what is it that you stand in need of? And write that down and incorporate that into your prayer life. If you could ask one thing of God, what would it be? Because you look at it inside of a couple different examples, Elisha included, Solomon included. God has a way of blessing and directing your lives for allowing those things to happen. And so, what is it that I stand in need of? What can I purpose my life for? How can I help other people? Is a good takeaway from Elisha.
Amen.
Was Elijah the only one that went to heaven without dying?
No, there were 2 others. And I'm going to have to Google it. But I know it's 3. People keep on saying it was 2, 3.
It was 3? I thought it was only 2.
It's 3.
Because you've got, what's his name right in the beginning of Genesis. And God took him. I'm trying to think of his name.
I'll Google it. But
I don't know who the third one would be.
Elisha. I can't think of it now.
It was
Moses
with M,
died.
wasn't it?
He took his body, but he died. God hid his body.
I'll check it. I've looked it up. Pretty confident it's 3. You can Google it. And then the other connection that I think with Elisha, Elisha ministered through miracles, compassion, provision, and raising people from the dead. So remember, he raised
Enoch.
Enoch, so that's 2. And so I got to figure out who the third one.
That was Genesis.
Melchizedek?
That doesn't mention Melchizedek.
Nah, I don't know.
He was the high priest king or earlier.
Right.
It never mentions him.
And so there's a lot of parallels that you see in the New Testament for connection to Elisha. So between the raising the boy from the dead, the one that, this is the story will tell you, he was going back and forth, and so someone set up a room for him on the top of the house. And so he was able to stay there, and he asked the lady, what is it that you want? And she was able to bear a son. And so she bared a son. The son was out in the field, had a headache. Dad said to the servant, go bring this boy to his mama. And then he died at noon.
That's such a father thing to say, by the way.
And then,
To his mother.
yeah, bring it to his mom. You got a headache, take it to your mama. And so he died. And when he died, the woman rode out to go find Elisha and said, like, you promised me this thing. And I laughed. And I said, don't you get my hopes up about this having a child.
She never even actually asked for it.
She never even asked for it, right? And so ultimately, when he died, then Elisha came back to that house, to that room that was created, and brought him back to life.
See, the cool thing with that, she told her husband, all is well, just send me the donkey, give me a servant, let me go. I gotta go get this man of God. All is well, it's all right.
Well.
She tells the servant, all is well, hides it from Elisha.
Yeah.
Elisha. And he says it was hidden from me.
Yeah.
But there's a level of faith. It's like, she put him up on his bed. She's like, it's well. It's good.
Yeah.
He's got this. I just got to get him.
Yeah.
And that was the way she acted. So there's a lot of serious level of faith right there.
It's very reminiscent of the New Testament and how Jesus did things because of how much the people believed in him.
Just grabbing his garment.
Yes.
Who touched me? Like,
Yeah.
I just knew if all I had to do was touch you, or hey, just say it so, and then I know I'll be healed. I don't just say it.
The Roman, the centurion is, I'm commander over people. All you got to say the word.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy of you coming to me.
Right.
Just say the word.
Yeah.
It's done.
Right.
Amazing. Crazy, right? Good stuff. Jehoram. So he was the king of Israel. He was the son of Ahab. So he removed some of the Baal worship, but he continued in some sinful practices. He never fully surrendered to God. So when we start going through it, and the reason why we're mentioning some of these names, because we'll go through the lineage and we'll start going through who's getting killed and who's dying. And you're like, where did this person come from? And what did they do? Or what did they not do? What can we learn from these people? So Jehoram, or Joram, he was the king of Israel, and he was a son of Ahab. Ahab, again, he had some bad tendencies. And again, he was the king. Ahab was the king, and then Jezebel, his wife. Yes, ma'am.
I was thinking of just how similar we are in so many respects to the Jews, the people of the Old Testament, and there's a strong something that always pulls them towards these idol gods, right? And so because we're so similar to them, I'm wondering if are we similar in that way as well?
I think so.
And maybe we don't notice it but like there is this running theme of God does something great and they praise him for a little bit and then they run back to these false gods. And because we are so similar to them, like, how are we doing that?
Yep.
How are we doing that?
I think the Old Testament was written for a reason to illustrate to us the things that we do and how much we laugh about how stupid it was, but we do the same thing. And I think the modern comparison is, someone who wants the blessings of God. They really do, but they keep one foot planted in old habits, right? I want God to bless me. I want to do the right things, but this thing I'm not going to give away, right? I'm going to get rid of some of these Baal idols, but the golden calf, that one's cool. I'm going to keep that one. That's the one habit I'm going to hold on to. And so you see how some of these vices that we have in modern day will connect us and continue to separate us, or see how we go from seasons to seasons of like, hey, I'm feeling these blessings, I'm getting all these things, to, why are things not going so well? Or why does it seem like God's presence is removed? And sometimes this is the absence of God and not the presence of God that the things start to happen. You'll see when God removes himself from the people. You see how when God's wrath is against them, and then you see how when God's with them. There are three very different scenarios that you have, where when God's with you, the blessings, they're abundant. There's nations are bringing thousands and millions of reserves and food and things over to, you think Solomon, when they just wanted his wisdom, they're just dropping off things by the camel load. And then you think about when God's wrath is upon people, where, hey, the dogs will eat your flesh, and that type of deal, and the violence that comes with the deaths and the families that are under those type of curses is just not a good situation. Not a good situation. Or when God's absence, a little bit more of a slow burn, like the famine, or when it just hasn't rained, and it's just really hard around here and things are just tough. It's not the wrath, but it's definitely not the abundant blessings type scenario that you could see at times. And so I do think that those are good comparisons. I think that you see it with Ben-Hadad. He was the king of Syria, and so he was opposed to God's people. He was the one killing the Israelites. And so I think the spiritual lesson there with Ben-Hadad was that earthly power can't stop God's plans. And so I think God's plans eventually triumphed over him, but God also used him to chastise his people. And so it kind of goes both ways. And we talk about let God's will be done. And so what his will is the prophecies that we are able to read and then see happening through certain lines that a savior will come through. And so he's working that through. He's working curses through. All that stuff is happening in real time, but these people happen to be the actors of the time. And so it's very interesting to see how God uses people who are from opposing nations and people who are actually in the current nation as well.
Right. The New Testament understanding of idols is, and I'm asking a question, I want to make sure, is anything that we put before God. Okay.
That is correct. And so it's not, it was picture of a tree, or a type of wood. It was before, the actual idol, the physical idol, or worshiping in high places. It was that physically. God even had symbols for people. Hey, look at this snake, and all the curses, all the disease will be healed.
Right.
People translated and wanted that physical power for themselves, and they then put those into idols and they worship it. And you see it from the very beginning when Moses goes up to the mountain, and all of a sudden, take your earrings and all the stuff we got, burn them, let's make a golden calf. For no reason, right? Like God's up there in the mountain, but we just need something physical. Just left. So that is definitely something there. But then, yes, in the New Testament, again, put no other gods before me, and that could be anything that puts God in second fiddle, where he's done so much for us. We're in 2 Kings chapter 8 is where we are, and we're kind of doing like a recap, and then because it's moved so fast within these chapters, we're going through some of the characters that you see within 2 Kings chapter 8 as some of what you'll start reading. God is exacting kind of his revenge. This is the part of the movie where the person gets mad and says, I'm about to go get these folks. And it gets really exciting real quick. Hazael, he's a servant who ends up becoming king of Syria. I would say he murdered Ben-Hadad. Now, it's part prophecy, and we'll talk about that between this week and next week, but I think he added a little bit of spice to what God told him was going to happen, and then what he told people that God told him was going to happen. And we'll see, there's a little deviation. It's like if I told Samantha to tell Mason to come upstairs and take a shower. I'm upstairs all the way at the top floor, and they're all in the basement. Samantha, tell Mason to go take a shower. So Samantha goes all the way down to the basement. This is not a real story, but this is an example. And Samantha goes all the way down. Dad said, get your stinking self all the way up the stairs, because he can smell you from up there, and if you don't, he gonna beat you 3 ways a Sunday. Now, I said come up and take a shower, but I didn't put all the spice on it. Like, Samantha added that. This is what this guy Hazael does within chapter 8. It's funny. You'll see it, and it's like, this is what God said, and then you hear him talk to someone else, and God said do all these things, and it gets a little bit extra. But the lessons there we'll be able to see is ambition without godliness becomes destructive. And then sometimes people justify unethical behavior because they think that the promotion matters more than integrity. They think that their cause it warrants all. The ends justify the means? Is that Machiavellian proverb? And so, like, hey, I'm doing the right thing ultimately, so I don't care who gets hurt while I'm doing the right thing. And that's a mindset that sometimes persists in society that we get to see within this chapter as well. And so that's interesting. And then Jehu, he's the military commander that was anointed king of Israel. He helped to destroy Ahab's dynasty. He removed Baal worship. He didn't fully follow God, and he continued in golden calf worship. But you'll see how, again, he carried out some of the extra spice that I was talking about before, that God told him, and Jehu said, God told him to destroy certain things, but he took it a little extra. He did some Holocaust type stuff. He put them all in some type of room, locked them up, deceived them, acted like there was going to be a program, and then kill them all. Literally, this is what's happening in chapter 8. So we'll get to see that too. But again, a little bit of character development as the plot thickens. Jezebel, everybody uses her name in some bad ways, right? You know, they call people Jezebel just to get under their skin and offend people and stuff. And so she was the queen. She was Ahab's wife. And she promoted Baal worship. She was in a power position. She had responsibility, and she manipulated and murdered for power. She opposed God's prophet. And the spiritual lesson there is pride and manipulation eventually cause collapse. And so the funny part of Jezebel, when she died, right before she died, God's servants are coming up to look for her. She asked, are you coming in peace? And guess what she was doing? She was putting on her makeup. She was putting on her makeup. Read it in chapter 8. it literally says in the Bible, like she was like, I'm gonna put on my makeup and my head. That's got some modern connections. So you wouldn't have thought that in the Bible they give that detail as if it was relevant of, you know, God's servants coming to kill her. And, you know, who's that down there? She's looking out the window and she's like, let me put my makeup on real quick. And then they throw her out the window and the horses trample her. And he said, that was great. Let me eat first. And then I'll go back and bury her. These things are happening in 2 Kings chapter 8. And so it's like an action adventure movie. So again, we're just going through some of the 2 Kings chapter 8 as a chronological study is what we've been doing, and just comparing like some of these lessons that the children of Israel have learned and how it compares to today and modern day society and lessons that we can learn. And so we really were going through a lot of just people and character development today. And then we'll start to get into chapter 8 today, and then we'll continue into chapter 9 and 10 kind of next week. Next people, I couldn't say the name right. Ayatollah, daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, queen mother in Judah. She was into idolatry. Ahaziah, he was the king of Judah. He was influenced by Ahab's family, and he followed wicked counsel, and he allied himself with ungodly leadership. And so who influences you matters. So making sure that you're on top of that. That's a New Testament principle from 1 Corinthians 15:33, where it talks about bad company corrupts good character. And so that's a lesson we can learn from 2 Kings 8. And then Jehoshaphat, he was generally godly. He sought God. He led reforms. He did seek unhealthy alliances with wicked rulers, but he did good for the most part, and God gave him a little bit of grace because of that. And so a good heart doesn't excuse poor discernment, but you can see that when his heart was directed towards God, God was with him, and he gave him that grace, and he gave him that mercy. And so an important lesson about ourselves as far as where we direct kind of our hearts and our minds and our paths. And so that's kind of like a quick, long, mid version overview of people and what we're about to get into for 2 Kings as we're going to chapter 8 and chapter 9. And so we'll open up our Bibles. And so we get into 2 Kings chapter 8 for a chronological study. That's page 815. Now Elisha spoke to the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise and go with your household, and live wherever you can live, for the Lord has called for a famine, and it will indeed come to the land for 7 years. So the woman arose and acted in accordance with the word of the man of God. She went with her household and resided in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. At the end of the 7 years, the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to appeal to the king for her house and for her field. Now the king was speaking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Please report to me all the great things Elisha has done. And as he was reporting to the king how he had restored life to the one who was dead, behold, the woman whose son had restored to life appealed to the king for her house and for her field. And Gehazi said, My lord the king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. When the king asked the woman, she told everything to him. So the king appointed an officer for her, saying, Restore all that was hers, and the produce of the field from the day that she left, even until now. Then Elisha came to Damascus. Now Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, was sick, and it was told to him, saying, The man of God has come here. And the king said to Hazael, Take a gift with your hand to meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, Will I recover from this sickness? So Hazael went to meet him, and took a gift in his hand, and every kind of good thing of Damascus, 40 camels loads, And he came and stood before him and said, Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, has sent me to you, saying, Will I recover from this sickness? Then Elisha said to him, Go say to him, this is what Elisha is saying to the servant, you will certainly recover. But the Lord has shown me that he will certainly die. And he stared steadily at him until Hazael was embarrassed. And then the man of God wept. And Hazael said, Why is my Lord weeping? And he answered, Because I know the evil that you will do to the sons of Israel. You will set their fortified cities on fire. You will kill their young men with the sword. The little ones you will smash into pieces, and you will rip up their pregnant women. Then Hazael said, But what is your servant, a lowly dog, that he could do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord has shown me that you will be king over Aram. So he left Elisha and came to his master, who he said to him, What did Elisha say to you? And he answered, He told me that you will certainly recover.
Yeah, true.
But
Right.
on the following day, he took a cover, he dipped it in water, he spread it over his face so that he died. And Hazael became king in his place. Some grimy stuff, isn't it?
Right. No.
And this is the man of God. So Elisha told this guy, this is what you need to tell him. He's going to recover,
Right.
True.
and he will. But he's also showing me that you're going to be king. He's like, I'm just a lowly dog. I'm a servant. I can't be king.
Right.
He says, I'm a lowly dog. How can I do these great things? He doesn't say these horrific things, these terrible things. He says great things.
Great things, including ripping up your pregnant women,
Right.
trampling people,
Right.
all this violence that he's told him that he's going to see.
Right.
He calls it great things.
And he calls it great things. And so,
But maybe great as in
notorious, big,
yes.
audacity,
Yes.
filled.
Yes.
He doesn't say any of that though.
He kind of started power tripping a little bit.
Yes.
So because he had that emboldened, like, God told me I'm going to be king, and I know that Ben-Hadad is going to recover, he killed the guy. He dipped the towel in water and put it over his face. That's a nice, polite way of saying he murdered him, suffocated him. And he died, and he became king in his place. And so you start reading through, and I told you this thing is action-packed, and it's kind of like people getting boated off the island real quick over here. Jehoram reigns in Judah. So now in the 5th year, Jehoram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, when Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, became king. He was 32 years old when he became king and reigned for 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked by the way of the kings of Israel, just as the house of Ahab had done. Not the good stuff, right? For Ahab's daughter was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. However, the Lord did not want to destroy Judah for the sake of David, his servant, since he had promised to give him a lamp through his sons always. So, in his days, Edom broke away from the rule of Judah and appointed a king over themselves. Jehoram crossed over to the Zaire and all of his chariots with him, and he got up at night and struck the Edomites who surrounded him and the captains of chariots. But his army fled to tents. So Edom had broken away from Judah to this day. Then Libeth broke away at the same time. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoram and everything else that he did, are they not written in the books of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? And so that's where, when the chronological Bible discussion kind of breaks away, we get into that 2 Corinthians chapter 22. And it kind of goes over in accordance with, okay, this corroborates what I'm telling you is happening. So 2 different writers are seeing the same thing, and they're talking about what's happening. And so as you're going through the chronological study, it is kind of repeating itself a little bit within that 2 Chronicles chapter 22, 7 through 9. You'll see that as you're reading through your chronological order. had some questions. I just saw I had 5 minutes, so I'm just trying to think through. I want to read through this one other section, and then we'll get to the question. So Jehoram lay down with his fathers and was buried with his fathers. So I'm at 2 Kings chapter 8, 24. Jehoram lay down with his father, so he died, and he was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and the son of Ahaziah became king in his place. In the 12th year of Jehoram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Atallah, the granddaughter of Omri, the king of Israel. He walked in the way of the house of Ahab and did evil in the sight of the Lord, like the house of Ahab, because he was the son-in-law to the house of Ahab. Then he went to Jehoram, the son of Ahab, to war against Hazael, the king of Aram, Ramoth Gilead, and the Armenians wounded Jehoram. So the king of Jehoram returned to have himself healed, and Jezreel, the wounds which the Armenians had inflicted on him in Ramoth, when he fought against Hazael, the king of Aram. Then Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, the king of Judah, went down to see Joram, son of Ahab, in Jezreel because he was sick. So a lot of things happen, a lot of names. They even confuse me, like even Jezebel and Jerel, like the name of the city and the name of the person are all the same things. But ultimately, what ends up happening is Jehoram ends up fighting Hazael, the guy who just killed the other person, and you know that God's kind of working through him in a not so good way. And you see that the Israelites, the descendants of Ahab, have kind of come into power, their children, their lineage, and that's part of the prophecy that God had given. And so ultimately, we're getting to a point where the two parties are going to clash. And this is where all that death and destruction starts to take place. And so with only a little bit of time left, I don't want to get too far into that part of it. But what I will do is open up the floor for any thoughts around how God is working through this situation, even though they don't know it as people, even though that people are doing bad things. How is God working towards the good in this situation? Because I think even today we get situations where it feels like, is God asleep? Why is he letting this happen? How can things get this ugly where it seems so messed up? God's got to be fed up with this. I'm fed up with this. And so I think if we can pull even just a little bit from all these things that are going on with kings dying and Baal worshiping and children of God being killed and seemingly no one standing up for the truth, maybe we can relate that to something today. So I'll challenge you with that question. Anyone have any thoughts?
It's very similar to that. Only in this country we're not seeing so much of the killings of God's people, but in other places Christians are being killed. As much as we may or may not complain about this country, I mean, we are very blessed that we can freely worship. We can freely come together. We don't have to keep it a secret that we are Christians, although some people may wish we did. We don't have to. We're not under threat of duress or anything like that. And so, yeah, it's very, very similar to what's going on now.
Other thoughts?
Talking about the suffering, the violence and such, I'd like to read just 3 verses. And we'll see. I'll show you after the fact.
Okay.
It says, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, and you do not listen, or cry out to you about violence, and you do not save? Why do you force me to look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Oppression and violence are right in front of me. Strife is ongoing, and conflicts escalate. This is why the law is ineffective, and justice never emerges. For the wicked restrict the righteous, therefore justice comes out perverted."
Oh,
That could
Yeah.
be for today.
yes, absolutely.
That is Habakkuk,
Absolutely.
chapter 1, verses 2 through 4.
Thank you.
Well, you can tell there was a lot of like violence and stuff going on in this part, and like when you see how it was going on and not really anything happened with this or anyone say anything, he uses like maybe like caution and warning to like saying maybe this is what happens when you disobey me.
It's a good way to think about it. Caution as you're reading back and you understand it. And as you really think about it, I'll take you to Romans chapter 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. Right? And what that's telling you is like, this has always been happening. This is a pattern. You see it happening. You see it happening thousands of years ago, and you still see it happening today. And so when you're reading and you're seeing the pattern of these bad kings and bad actions and then consequences and then turning back to God and then blessings and then bad kings, and this generation was more wicked than the last, these are patterns that are reflective in even the New Testament and even today. And the warning that we have is we don't want to conform to the way that the pattern of the world is. We know that our bad company corrupts good character. We know that when you are focused on God, He's with you, but when you turn from Him, He departs from you. And so even though we know all these things, we have to daily wake up, do this in remembrance of me. We have to remember. We have to talk to God daily. We have to walk with Him daily and remind ourselves just what we are doing and why we're doing it. Because it is something that we as humans, the flesh, needs constant reminder of, to be able to have these things, plant them like on your doorposts and have them as frontlets on your eyes, because we are that fickle of human. And if we understand that, and we know that about ourselves, and we understand that about the history of what can happen if we don't, then I think it puts us in the best possible position to succeed. And we always have that kind of light, that principle, that beacon of, okay, this is what I need to focus on, and this is where I need to go back to when it feels like things are lost or things are a little bit chaotic, or it feels like I've fallen too far from the path. And so that's where I think I'll leave today's lesson with. And then next week, I promise we'll get more into the meat and potatoes, but I would encourage you to read 2 Kings chapter 8 and 9 through about 10, because all the things that we kind of highlighted at the beginning, all that fast pace, like who killed who and why did he take all 70 something of his sons and cut off their heads and leave them at the front door for no reason, and the whole thing about Jezebel and how she dies, and that's a little bit of God's prophecy and the humor behind her literally putting on her makeup right before she died, and prioritizing, kind of, that's what I want to have happen. And some of the things that we prioritize in our own lives that are down here that really don't mean anything in the big picture. And so a lot of fun to be had. Thank you for your interaction. Thank you for your engagement. Let's go to God in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time to be able to study and to open up your word and to see the examples and the patterns that you have given us for our own view, to be able to better understand how to direct our lives and our hearts towards you, Lord. At this time, as we transition from Bible study to worship, that you be with those yet on the way, that you continue to open our hearts and minds to be able to be receptive to the word, and that we are able to take what we've learned and to be able to not just keep it within ourselves, but to spread it across